Hello, welcome to the assignment video for the proposal letter. When you watch this, make sure that you've already watched the final research project assignment video, because the proposal letter is a document where you're going to be proposing your idea for your final research project. So first you need to know what that project is all about, and then this is the proposal letter. So when you're looking at examples of the proposal letters, you probably want to know where there are examples. It's under Pages in Canvas, and then it's examples proposal letters. And there are a few there, and we're going to spend some time looking at them. So you'll have a bit of an idea of what this is all about. This basically is a fairly short document, 1 to 2 pages, single spaced. It's formatted as a business letter. So remember how you formatted your cover letter? That's how you want to format your proposal letter, with the audience at the top, and you address it to the audience, and then you write your proposal letter and you conclude. The proposal letter has a few main parts. So you're proposing your topic. First, you want to identify the need or the opportunity that your research is fulfilling here. So your project might be exploring a topic that the public doesn't know much about, and you plan to educate them in a certain way about this topic. That would be an opportunity, and maybe a little bit of a problem as well. So you're basically essentially asking the question, why am I doing this, and then answering it in this proposal letter. Why is this a useful topic for me to write about? You can include background as necessary. If you do include research, you need to cite it, and typically you do want to include a little bit of preliminary research. You may include some personal experience, but we want to know a little bit about this topic that's beyond your personal experience. So for most of these, having a little bit of research in there would be good, and just make sure you cite it. You can use any citation style you want. It doesn't have to be MLA. If you're more comfortable with APA, that's fine. If you're more comfortable with a field-specific citation style that you use for your lab reports, that's perfectly fine too. Just have a citation style that you use and stick with it. You also don't have to do a whole new page for your works cited or your references page, because in the proposal letter, there's probably not too many references. It's maybe 1 or 2. So you can just put them at the end of the last page of text, because often you actually have a little bit of white space at the bottom. If you want to do a whole new page, that's fine. And you do need in-text citations as well. So if you're citing something, you don't just put at the end, here's where I got information from. We need to know with every bit of data or every quote, where did this come from? Which source did it come from? And so you need to essentially map that sentence in your proposal letter to the source that it came from, even if it's only one source. And if you're confused about how to cite information, maybe it's been a long time since you've done it, I think the online writing lab at Purdue University has a really good MLA guide, a really good APA guide, a really good Chicago style guide. So whatever style you're comfortable with, go on the online writing lab at Purdue University. It's called the OWL, OWL, online writing lab. It's kind of cute. It's got like an owl. The OWL at Purdue, you can just Google it, and you'll find all the citation style information on how to cite in text, and also how to put together a works cited. So yeah, that was a bit of a diversion, but it's important. You do need to cite your information that you got, that you didn't know right off the top of your head. If it's a statistic, somebody came up with that statistic. If it's a quote from somewhere, you didn't make that up. That was somebody else's idea. So a bit of background, an explanation of the problem you're solving or the opportunity you're taking advantage of, and then a bit of information about your plan. It may be a really well fleshed out plan. You might still be in the preliminary stages of it, and that's fine. Some people will include objectives of their research. Some people don't quite know yet, but they will, list out what they've come up with so far, maybe a suggested structure for the paper. So that plan can look like whatever you think you want to convey, and wherever you are in that process. And looking at examples will help, because you'll see plans in different different levels of completeness. Some people really know where they're going with this. Some people are still in their preliminary exploratory stages, and that's fine. You do need a timeline. You do need a timeline for completion. It can be as short as a couple of sentences. It could be an entire table where you go through and you say, you know, these weeks I'm going to do exploratory research and gather sources. On these weeks, I'm going to survey my classmates about, let's say you're doing primary research like that, you're doing a survey and gather survey results. And these weeks, these dates, this range, here's what I'm going to do. Culminating with submitting your project and finishing your presentation. You might say, but Seema, you already know when the paper is due. Why am I including a timeline? Because no proposal is complete without a timeline. Yes, this is about proposing your project to me or your final audience for the project, but it's also about you walking away from tech writing with the skill of how to write a proposal, which is something that you're very likely to do in your career, whether you're going to industry or academia. As an engineer, you're probably going to have to write a proposal at some point. This is a really short one, but it's got to have the same bones. It's got to have the main stuff that goes in a proposal, and a timeline for completion is always part of a proposal. So do make sure that you have that in there. I will say this, and I mean it, you cannot get an A on the proposal letter unless you have a timeline of some sort in there. So it might be a few sentences. I plan to complete this on this date and this on this date. It could be a whole chart or a graph or something you put together. You decide what level of detail you want it to be, but it needs to be there. Then you'll need some sort of conclusion. Maybe the timeline is the conclusion, or maybe as you put it together, you realize it feels a little incomplete. I'm going to conclude with something. Given that this is a business letter, a nice friendly sign-off makes for a good conclusion sometimes. Reminder of the importance of this research might make for a good conclusion. So when I talk about the audience for this project, what is the audience? It's either me, because you're writing this paper for my class, or your final audience for the paper. So you can kind of decide. In a couple examples I gave you in the assignment video for the final research project, I'll give you a couple examples that echo those. The student who wrote to the St. Louis Parks Department about the bike paths in Forest Park. Her proposal letter, I think this would be a good way to do it, her proposal letter was addressed to the head of the St. Louis Parks Department, saying, you know, here's the problem I'm exploring and why it's important. Here's what I plan to do. Here's my timeline for completion. And I will have this report to you on this date. And it was a little more formal in tone because that is an audience that she didn't know well, though she had been in touch with him. And so, you know, it was a nice professional letter. Sometimes people who are writing magazine articles will decide to address the proposal letter to the editor of that magazine. Like, here's what I propose to write for you, and you should publish it, and here's why. A proposal essentially is a persuasive document. You are persuading your audience to let you do this project. And in industry or academia, when you get out of here and you write a proposal, it's also usually you're trying to persuade somebody to fund your project. In this case, there isn't a budget associated with doing this paper. But, you know, if there is a budget associated with something, when you write a longer proposal at some point in your career, you'll also be talking about the money necessary and why, and, you know, why this is the budget for it, what you're spending that on. So you'll have a lot of financial information in there when you write a bigger proposal as a professional engineer, as an engineer in industry, or in academia. For this class, you don't need a budget in there because your budget will be zero, or whatever printing budget it's not even a printing budget, you're submitting it online. So yeah, you don't have to worry about budget as part of this. I will be able to upload some resources about what goes in a proposal in more detail for you so that you can take a look. And, you know, if you're more of a reader and you want to really spend some time reading, hey, here's what goes in a proposal and how to structure it, you can take a look at that. Those resources are more for longer proposals. So this proposal letter, the key things are really exploring that need or opportunity, having a plan laid out, putting a timeline of some sort in there, and concluding. Format it like a business letter. End with a sincerely your name or whatever your favorite sign off is, because it's a business letter. So you're going to format it just like your cover letter, but it might be 2 pages long, and that's okay. So yeah, that's the overview of it. If you have questions, let me know. I'm available. We are going to look at examples, but if you want to get a jump on looking at those examples sooner, go for it, and they'll give you a really good idea of the range that these cover letters fall on, or I mean, sorry, not cover letters, these proposal letters fall under. One last question, and this is the other thing I was thinking about in the final research project video that goes with this. It has to do with academic integrity, but in a really specific way. I am completely okay with you using something in one paper that you then use in the next paper for my class. So if you've used it in my class, you can build on it. This proposal letter, you're going to write this. A lot of this text you can take and use in the final research project. If they're written to the same audience, the same tone, the same level of technical detail, it might be perfect. So you can lift this from one document and use it in another one. If you've written your audience awareness paper on the same topic, because you're really passionate about it, the same topic that you're then going to write your final research project about, you might take some of the text from your audience awareness paper and drop it into your final research project. So you can feel free to use any of the stuff you've done for my class in other stuff you're doing for my class. I am giving you blanket permission to do that. That is how things work in the real world. You might write a thing and propose it and then build on it and use some of that in the final project, the final product that you present to your audience. So, you know, then your presentation will have a lot of the same stuff as your paper, because they're actually the same topic essentially for 2 different audiences. One is an audience that's going to be reading it. The other is an audience that's going to be watching it of your peers. So that's the audience for the presentation. So yeah, so as you write this proposal letter, it's one of the pieces that you're going to be able to use in your paper. It's a way that we're building this paper up rather than writing it the night before it's due. That's the overview of the final, or of the proposal letter. It's quite a short document. I think the hardest thing about the proposal letter isn't writing the proposal letter. It's figuring out what you want to propose. Once you have that in mind and a little bit of a plan fleshed out, the writing of it is a little bit more straightforward. So have fun with this, start thinking about topics, and enjoy.